Okay, Sherry, we're ready.
Are we ready? All right, let's try this once again because I actually will have my agenda pulled up here in about 2 seconds too.
Oh, I saw that. I have that. Yep.
I couldn't get it to open.
Oh, I just haven't had a chance to print it yet.
Maybe what?
I haven't had a chance to print
You
it.
want to run over
Sign on
the
there.
door for me?
Can you just come in or something?
Never mind. Brian's doing it. All right. Yeah, I was just gonna,
Probably had to be open.
no, it just says have a.
Yeah, there's a, yep,
And yellow now.
there's one on there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me, I'd like to call the Thursday, December 9th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting for Finance. Start with a roll call. No Carl Johnson, Sherry Gieske, I'm here. Jonathan Van Laar. Absent. Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Steve Schwabacher.
Here.
Ryan Curry.
Here.
Bill Robertson.
Here.
Trey Bartelt.
Here.
Rodney Riley.
Here.
And Freddie De La Trinidad. Kevin, have either of those two people that aren't here asked to be, are going to be online or anything?
No, but Freddie De La Trinidad is just running late.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank
And the
you.
chairman will be here soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Yep, he will. All right, let's go ahead while we wait for, or these people will be here as soon as they can manage it. I am looking for a motion to approve the December 2nd, 2021 Committee of the Whole admin meeting minutes and the December 2nd, 2021 admin administrative executive session. Made by motion by Bill Robertson, seconded by Ray Larson. Any conversation or comments about this? I don't have to do a roll for this, or do I?
No.
So I can manage that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 4.1 is an approval of the agenda. Kevin or Dan, any changes to this?
None this evening.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Ray, seconded by Rodney. Any conversation about this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's see where all the, public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make some public comment? Anything else? Anyone else online anywhere? All right, moving on to presentations. The floor belongs to Mr. Kurt Newport, the treasurer. You're up, Kurt.
Good evening, everyone. November, I don't believe was not a very eventful month financially speaking. We did make the final property tax distribution for the year, about $300,000. When all is said and done, the general fund balance is down only about $11,000 from the previous month. So it was a fairly good month from that standpoint. So I'll just give you some kind of big picture numbers here as we close out the fiscal year. Our general fund cash balance of $5,850,000 is about 2.85 million higher than it was a year ago. So a very good year from that standpoint. The total of all funds sitting at 33,826,000 and change. That's up about 8 million from a year ago, keeping in mind that 5.2 million of that is the ARPA money that we have. So, without the ARPA money, it's still up 2.8 million, give or take. So, that's just cash, and cash isn't the whole story, but cash is a big part of the story. And the balances are definitely higher than they were a year ago. So if I can balance that off with some bad news, our total income from interest income from the investment pool for the year, a little over 259,000. That compares to nearly 411,000 the year before. So interest income substantially down, obviously, because of the drop in interest rates. Now, most of our CDs that we had at the higher interest rates have been now cycled through. So I don't anticipate that next year's revenue is going to be a whole lot different than this year as far as that concerned. Just fair warning, December is going to be an expensive month. First of all, it's a 3 paycheck month, so that tacks on an extra 450 grand or so. December is when we always pay our insurance bill, which is going to come in, I think, just under $800,000. You've got a bond payment to make of $282,000. And December is always a big month for claims as we transition into the new fiscal year. You approved $355,000 in claims last week, and we'll have another 500, about $500,000 for you to approve here next week. So the fund balances are going to take a pretty good hit when we meet again in January, and the tort fund is going to be in the red. So that in and of itself, that's all pretty normal stuff. Just a lot of it happening at once. There's, of course, a lot of talk about inflation. Where is inflation really? What's that going to do to interest rates? That sort of thing. And it's mostly speculation at this point. The thing that I would point out with regard to inflation, we're a PTEL county, and the amount that our property tax extension can go up from one year to the next is limited mostly by the consumer price index, that December consumer price index number. And it's always a year behind. So our extension that we extend for 2021, which we will collect next year, is going to be limited to an increase of 1.4% based on the December 2020 CPI number. What will that number be a year from now? We don't know, but keep in mind that the maximum that can be is 5%. In other words, if the CPI goes up more than 5%, the number that gets plugged into PTEL and limits our tax extension is going to be 5%. So, in the 25-year history of PTEL, the tax cap law, we've never had to worry about that. But it's always been part of the law. My fear is that piece of the statute is going to come into play. Hopefully not, but I just wanted you to keep that in mind for a year from now, or come next summer and fall in the budget process. There's a limit to how much your levy will be able to go up based on that limit. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kurt? I have one thing I want to add, and then I'm going to ask you a favor.
Okay.
The only other way that we can increase that is if we have lots of business development.
Well, new property in general.
Right, new property in general.
Residential,
business,
commercial,
right,
industrial.
whatever, right.
Solar farms, wind towers, whatever, anything that gets added to
Yep.
the tax base.
Right, so that's the other. Since we have that $5.2 million out there, or whatever it is that's left, burning a hole in our pocket, I have been poking around and I stumbled on something that I want to just read you a couple sentences. It says, ask your local leadership. The topic here is, our city and county budget surpluses piling up in your area. We like the pile up, right? But it says, ask your local leadership to consider instituting a variable surplus property tax credit to be applied toward the annual property tax bill. What this tax credit will do is return some percent of the money to the citizens, who of course will reinject it in the economy by spending. Now, I'm sitting here and I can read the look on your face. I have no idea what the hell this is, but it sounds to me, I don't see any reason for us to spend all this money right now. It seems to me it might be something worth looking into. And I'll email it to you so you get that whole name, if that's okay.
Okay.
Unless somebody else, Kevin, are you familiar with it?
No. No.
Okay, I don't feel so bad. I mean, how about you, Dan?
You know, I have to look at the document, but I thought that there was a prohibition on utilizing ARPA funding to decrease, to like explicitly decrease taxes.
Well,
Does that sound?
Well, I don't know that that is what this is, but I think it is worth a tad bit of looking into, because I think in most all of our conversations, we talked about not spending all this money, because for how long have we never had any reserves? Kevin knows this better than anybody, because that was a big topic of conversation when he interviewed as all candidates. So we've talked about that several times, about not spending this money right away, hanging on to it. And so I thought I will just
Okay.
give you this and see what you
My
can.
question right now is that article out of an Illinois newspaper?
No, it happens to be out of the Wall Street Journal.
Okay. It's because the thought that popped into my mind as you talk about this, you know, if a government has more money than they need, the obvious answer to that is to tax people less, right?
Yeah, which I think this is.
The problem with PTEL is when you tax people less, when you lower your levy, you are sacrificing the ability to raise it in the future, okay? So, you know, if this kind of thing is done in Illinois, it's sort of, you know, an end run around the PTEL law so that we would levy it and then eventually refund it, thereby preserving our ability to levy. I don't know how the courts would deal with that. I mean, somebody might say, hey, they're trying to mess with PTEL here. So, but.
Well, and you may be right on all of those things. All that being said, though, I do think it's worth a little bit of research in this, doing this at this one, or even something else that might come up, because I just don't want to see us spending this money until the dust settles and we know what we need it for, a rainy day. But number two, I didn't read you the last sentence. I should, because you'll get a kick out of it, and then I'll stop. This will result in a much better return on the money, think sales tax, than if it had sat stagnant in a governmental controlled money market fund making 0.1%. And what do we talk about all the time? How these interest rates have tanked.
We're making 0.3%. So
Well, then forget it. Let's just stick with 0.3.
I don't think too many people read that paper anyway.
Be surprised. I don't really care where I get the information if there's a possibility that we can, anyhow. Thank you for indulging me, and I'll send that name or that stuff to you,
Very
okay?
well.
Thank you, and I'm sure you've got other folks here that will help. By the way, let the record show that Freddie de la Trinidad arrived at 6:06 PM and Jonathan Van La arrived at 6:11 PM. All right, let's see, where are we at? We are at item 6.2, admin, the monthly financial report. Mr. Street.
Good evening. So tonight, this is the November report, which is really what we have your report. I did want to note that all these numbers are unaudited, so ultimately they will change. We have accrual that get booked back to FY 2021. These will change, but for the most part, I think it's a good summary of kind of how we ended the year. So on the general fund revenues, and really it aligns well with Kurt's number, but we ended FY 2021 up 2.8 million, just a little bit under 2.8 million over the adopted budget amount. So we came into the good. We were over budget on revenues, which is where we want to be. That's great. So we ended the year at 20.7 million. We budgeted just under 18. If you can remember, going into the FY 2021 budget, we were in August, September of 2020. We weren't sure what it was going to look like. With the pandemic and the recession. And so luckily we came out of that. We had a really good year. Even when we take out the cures revenues, which were about 800,000, we were up about 12% year over year. So a really good year for the county on the revenue side. Expenditures, also good news. So we ended the year under budget, which is good on the expenditure side, so under budget by 235,000. Again, that number will change, but it won't. It'll be under budget. And so we budgeted just over 18 million, ended the year 17.8. So overall, I would say the takeaway is another strong year. We had a good year in 2020. We had another good year now in 2021. And so hopefully we can continue to build on this. And as Kurt alluded to, continue to build up those
Yeah.
fund balances and be in a better position financially. I did want to mention just something I saw that I thought was interesting. So the state of Illinois has a lot of times, so our employees at the county, we're a part of IMRF. A lot of times that gets confused with some of the state retirement systems. So there are 5 state systems. They put out a report every year talking about the funded ratio that came out this week. And so those 5 state retirement plans are funded at about 42% as a whole. The worst one being just under 20%, 19.3%. So a lot of times people see that and that gets a lot of publicity, but IMRF is totally separate. It's not funded by the state at all. And IMRF is currently, after 2020 ended, they were at 94%. And so it's just something to kind of keep in mind. You'll hear a lot of publicity about state pensions and how, there's some uncertainty there in the future. But as far as our employees and the county goes, IMRF is very sound moving forward. And so that's something I think to highlight. So any questions?
Any questions for Dan? You don't want to reveal who was the 20% one, do you?
It's GARS, which is the, I'll tell you here in a second. It is,
If anybody in the room passes out, we'll know they're part of it.
No.
let's see here.
It's not important. I was just curious. Carrie?
I just have a question. I don't know if this is the right time to ask it or not, but last year we did away with impact fees, and I was wondering if there is anything being done on those impact fees, that we would know how much the county has actually lost on those impact fees, how much the school systems and everything has lost on those?
We could pull the data on what homes have been built that would have been subject to the impact fees.
Yeah, I think that's of interest, because we did remove those impact fees for only 2 years, and I'd like to see what we lost, what everybody has lost out on this year.
Or gained, right?
I think the initial idea, I think when we presented the moratorium, the idea or the direction was to come back after the 2 years with that analysis, but we can do like a mid-year or a mid-moratorium check-in.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. Thank you so much.
So Dan, you are committing to take a peek at that and you'll tell us next time we see you or whenever. Just like Kurt's going to tell us about that, whatever that was I asked. Any other questions?
I have an answer.
Oh,
It shouldn't surprise anyone. It's the General Assembly retirement system. Oh, jeez.
wait a minute, General Assembly retirement. So if anybody is considering running for a state office or whatever going to work. All right, thank you. All right, any other questions for Dan? Dan, you're just full of wonderful information. And let the record show that Carl Johnson has arrived at 6:19. We have just like a stepping stool. All right, let's move on to 6.3, the Behavioral Task Force Core and Sort Grant presentation. I think we're going to have Jessica and Amy and Amanda. Everybody's going to come up. Not you, Amy?
I'm going to start, if that's okay.
Of course it's okay. Get to introduce Jessica too, right?
Yeah, great. Okay, good evening, everyone, members of the county board and colleagues, department heads, and members of the public. Amanda Mail here with the Boone County Health Department. I also, as one of the many hats I wear, chair the Boone County Behavioral Health Task Force and have since 2017. My co-chair is the head of probation, Amy Galliano, and she is here tonight as well. So I just want to make a few brief remarks before I introduce you in person. I know she's been present over the phone, to Jessica Perla, who's our program manager for our 2 current Department of Justice grants that we are receiving here in Boone County. So just a real quick brief history lesson for those of you that may not be familiar with how the task force has conducted itself over the last handful of years. So the health department is required by state statute every 5 years to complete a community health needs assessment and basically do a strategic plan and roadmap for the community. And we call that I-Plan. which is Illinois Plan for Local Area Needs. And the number one health priority that was identified in the last cycle of strategic planning was behavioral health. And when we say behavioral health, we mean mental health, we mean substance abuse and misuse, and then we mean co-occurring, which is both together. So somebody who struggles with a mental health diagnosis and with substance overuse or misuse, right? So in 2017, we formed the task force, and I spearheaded that formation with the intent of bringing the right partners to the table across the county, as well as our private sector and faith-based partners, et cetera, to begin to talk a little bit about how we were going to address this massive issue from a systems approach, right? We had an overdose rate that was higher than the state average. We had a lot of challenges with our jail and law enforcement having the resources and the ability to respond to the needs of a lot of our community members that deal with behavioral health challenges. So we worked on that for about a year. In 2018, we completed as a task force and gaps analysis and a sequential intercept map model. We worked with R1PC and they led us through a strategic plan to determine what were the gaps and the needs within the law enforcement and criminal justice system here in Boone County, as well as within the medical system, our primary care providers, the health department, the faith-based organizations. What was missing? What did we need to write grants for? How did we need to kind of build a stronger system to support those members of our community? In 2019, we began writing for grants and things started to get really exciting. We received our first grant, which is the core grant in 2019. In 2020, we onboarded staff and rolled that program out while simultaneously writing for our second grant, or the SORT grant, which we were awarded then at the end of 2020. We also formalized bylaws and a subcommittee structure for the task force in 2020. And then in 2021, we onboarded for the second grant so far. I guess we still have 3 more weeks, right? We had some staff changes within our first grant and we became fully staffed again. We wrote grants 3 and 4, which are currently still pending. So we're hoping for thousands of more dollars to come into our community here in the next handful of months. And our subcommittees became very active and engaged in the community. We also are probably weeks away from rolling out our Medicaid assisted treatment, our MAT program in our jail, which is very exciting. So let's talk numbers because I think return on investment is really important for everyone to understand. It's not just a benefit for the community, but it's how many dollars are coming from the federal level here to our local community to overhaul our system and make it more usable and approachable and workable for our community as well as our workers that are working within that. So our core grant is a total of $599,769. And our SORT grant is $599,000 even. Those 2 grants overlap by a year. Over a 4-year period of time, we have just under $1.2 million from the Department of Justice to run both of these programs. We have 2 grants pending, the Connect and Protect grant through the Department of Justice, and we have an Illinois Department of Public Health targeted opioid surveillance and response grant. And the dollars that are pending right now total $604,346. So if we get both of those grants, we will significantly be able to increase the return on investment in terms of the money that we initially put in, that the county board, the city council, and the Board of Health contributed for the grant writing efforts. So it's pretty exciting. In addition to that, we have participated in 3 mentorship or technical assistance opportunities, which have been grants of sort given that people have given in-kind time to provide guidance and support to us. So we participated in a task force systems analysis, which was being linked up with another small rural county that is doing similar work and is just a little bit farther down the road in their planning and implementation process in Butler County, Ohio. And we met with them for a year and they helped us to develop our process and really gave us some good tips for building our grants. They've also been awarded Department of Justice grants. Then we just completed a Medicaid assisted treatment / jail services partnership and technical assistance program with the Hampden County Sheriff's Department in Massachusetts. They're doing a similar thing. They've been assisting us with information on how to roll out our MET program, pros and cons, pitfalls, success stories, et cetera. And then our third mentorship TA opportunity, which we were just awarded last week, is an 8-month training institute called the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. And it's a behavioral health training institute that Jessica and another staff member are going to be able to attend free of charge and receive a series of information, including trauma-informed practice within the justice system and when working with clients who are suffering from a behavioral health disorder. So pretty exciting stuff that we've accomplished since 2017. I am finished just giving you an overview, and I would like to pass the mic to Jessica Perillo. She has a PowerPoint which was provided to all of you on board docs, and she's going to give you some more information on data and trends that we're seeing here in Boone County and a lot of the success stories that have happened over the last year.
All right. Good evening. Thanks, Amanda. I have not officially been here in person yet, so thank you so much for letting me speak. You all had a great hand in getting these grants and these programs approved and started within the county. So I think you deserve just as much thank you as the rest of us. So I appreciate your support. I do have a short PowerPoint just to give you some details about kind of where we're heading and what we're seeing. It's all very initial data as we kind of just started our data collection. So Amanda spoke about our grants. Our large purpose here on the task force and with these programs is to really decrease the emotional, mental, and financial tension that we see not only on individuals and their families, but also on our workforce and our overall county due to behavioral health symptoms. So when I'm talking about behavioral health, I'm talking about mental health, addiction, and we also help those that are experiencing domestic violence. We do often find that mental health or substance abuse is involved in those situations as well. Some of the things that we'll do on a day-to-day basis, we'll transport any individual to treatment. We'll partner with some of our community resources and get them food or clothes, any emergency housing. We do run multiple support groups in the community. We distribute Narcan to individuals, their families, and organizations. We are in the jail re-entry planning for inmates that are coming back out into the area. And we will connect and utilize our community resources. So really what we want to be seeing here, if we're successful, is a decrease in first responder burnout, a decrease in drug use and overdose rates, as well as drug crime, increase in the utilization of all of our already wonderful community resources. And of course, if we see any gaps in the community, fill them the best that we can. I'm not going to read through our whole team, but I don't do this alone. And actually, our other team members deserve all the credit. They're the ones that are out on the roads talking with community individuals. I get to do all the fun stuff like manage all the federal grants. Some of those names should look pretty familiar to you. So why connect with criminal justice? Why is it so important that we're in the court system, we're in the jails, we're working with law enforcement? 9 times out of 10, someone that is struggling with behavioral health will come in contact with law enforcement before they come in contact with any treatment center. Programs before us and similar programs around the nation have coined the term a high utilizer, which is something we do see here in Boone County. The high utilizer population is a fraction of our population that continues to have contact with the system due to their behavioral health reasons. So people that are calling 911 over and over, that continue to experience these symptoms in and out of the jail, in and out of the court system, in and out of treatment centers and emergency room departments. That's what we typically call high utilizers. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, the more data we collect, the more these numbers kind of shift slightly. But just so you know, some of the things that we're really looking at and tracking here in the county, our typical high utilizer that we will work with, they on average generate about 20 contacts with law enforcement for the year. And those that are getting arrested typically get arrested twice within the year. And EMS and fire also usually get called out 20% of the time. For some extremes, just to give you an idea, our top high utilizer that we have been working with has called dispatch over 200 times so far in 2021. And this was 100% due to a mental health issue. And this individual also spent time in our local jail. So not only do we want to help the individual because it can be emotionally tolling on themselves and the family, and that's primarily why we're here. It's always good to look at the financials as well. So if you think about the amount of time that it takes for first responders on these calls and how many first responders are working these calls, so far in 2021, based on our calls for service that are behavioral health related, we've spent over 100,000 in first responder time just responding to these health calls. So really anything we can do for the community to stop someone from needing to call 911 or needing to have contact with law enforcement, if we can get them connected to community resources so that they don't have a crisis or an overdose or anything like that again, could be extremely beneficial. Just some core data from our substance abuse outreach team. We receive a referral from the county about every business day. So every day that we are in the office, we are typically getting a phone call from someone who wants or an individual that would like to refer that person. So it could be from the courthouse, it could be from the jail, it could be a family member, the individual themselves. And then our outreach program that involves our police officer. She gets referrals only from other deputies and city police. She receives about 34 referrals a month. So that means that more than once a day, we have an officer out on the streets coming in contact with someone who's struggling with behavioral health that could use our resources. And just to give you an idea, the very first month that she transferred to this position, she received 27 referrals right off the bat. So what we try to do is track how often we are linking these individuals to services. We want to make sure we're doing a good job. For our core outreach team, almost half the time that a name comes across our desk, we're able to reach them and link them to one of our local community resources. If you take out all of the referrals that we get that maybe we don't make contact with, maybe they bond out of the jail before we get a hold of them, maybe we don't have the right number, they don't answer the door. If you take only those that we are able to actually sit down and talk to, we're able to link 60% of those. So chances are, if we are able to have a conversation with someone, we're able to give them at least one resource that they need. Some success stories that I think are worth mentioning. Our navigator was able to find a detox bed for someone in 20 minutes. And with the help of our other team member, Officer Schwartz, they transported that individual to treatment that very day. Our team received a referral for a homeless individual with behavioral health concerns that law enforcement came in contact with. They were able to get this person a 1-week voucher for emergency housing. They got him food, hygiene products, clothing, an interview for employment, and an appointment for counseling, all within 1 hour of receiving the referral. And in case you're wondering, yes, he did get the job. Our team has given out, at the time that I wrote this PowerPoint, almost 100 kits of Narcan, but to this day, 156 kits of Narcan. And we have multiple Narcan trainings scheduled for 2022 of organizations that have reached out to us. And we have begun to gather information for overdoses around the county. So every time there's an overdose in our county, we know about it pretty quickly and we drop a pin on a map, and that map helps us develop patterns. It helps us target responses to certain areas and hopefully be preventative in keeping overdoses from continuing to rise. So all the time we do get emails, letters, texts from people that we've helped. So I wanted to read you a couple. These were all direct quotes from an email or a letter that was given to us. I really don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for you. I thank God every day for bringing you and Allie into my life. You could have dropped me off and left, but you didn't. You guys have been there for me every step of the way. I'm really blessed. I appreciate you coming by more than you will ever know. This has been a rough year and a half dealing with all of this. It has been a lot on all of us as a family, but no matter what, thank you. We thought all hope was lost. Thank you so much for caring about my children's health and well-being. The outreach program is the best thing you could have ever done. It is the one hope for our family and our city. So we have received quite an overwhelming positive response from the community, and believe it or not, even when Officer Michelle is with us, We've only gotten the door slammed in our face once. So we continue to be out in the community, knocking on people's doors, asking them what they need, trying to get them to services as much as possible, and eliminate any barriers. So with our relationship with law enforcement, I would like to invite Sheriff Ernest up here to talk very briefly about what he's seen so far with the program. And then I will step back up to answer any questions or comments.
It really will be very brief, I promise. Honestly, the program is absolutely amazing. It is tenfold what we thought it was going to be. I will tell you, as a long-time law enforcement, a lot of people throw away the key. Although I still believe in some of that. For some individuals, for the most part, it's proven that it doesn't work. And this is such a good, feel-good story, and I can't say getting these 2 grants, stuff that we couldn't just try on our own because the expense is so high, to hope that there's success. With this grant, they were able to take many, many chances and create a program that is just amazing for our community. Officer Michelle with the city, who goes out countywide, she does an amazing job, as well as everybody in this program. I personally referred multiple people to her. The helplessness that officers on our departments have when we have families or individuals dealing with drug abuse and mental illness, the helplessness that we have. We're all here to help people. And be honest with you, we have not been very successful with that in a very, very, well, probably forever. So it's really comforting to be able to talk to families and actually, turn it over to the group, and these people will help you. And they personal contact, they go and physically talk to them, and they do follow-up calls with them. We used to hand out cards and the numbers were always wrong. We didn't do a very good job we never followed up. We just didn't have the resources, clearly. So I can't speak enough positive stuff about this that I've seen personally with my own eyes outside the jail. Inside the jail, it's a whole new ballgame. There is no reason why people can't be successful. It won't be on us. We give them the tools to be successful, to get healthy, to change their lives when they leave our facility, really because of this program, which we've never had before. You hear me month in and month out talk about the mental illness that we have. The state does a horrible job with that. We are, the largest facility for mental health in Boone County. The prison is the largest in the state. People fall through the cracks every single day. Sheriffs across our state would kill for a program like this, both outside and inside our jail facility. So, and you know me well enough. If the program didn't work, I would tell you that. Sorry, but that's just how we roll. So, if anybody has any questions afterwards, I'm more than happy to answer them. The effect is truly amazing with what I've seen. And the future is very, very bright for Boone County. We're not dealing with the same people that we deal with every single week. This isn't a fix-all. We're still going to have, the same people. We're still going to have overdoses. We're still going to have issues. But we can sure say that we gave them everything that we had to make their life better. And the faces on the families, maybe some of you, maybe all of you have never really dealt with people, family members with substance abuse or mental illness. I've dealt with thousands of people over my career, and it's really a sad state of affairs because these people have no resources, have nowhere to go. They have nobody to answer their questions. And again, so with this group, it is absolutely awesome. I love referring people to this because I know they're going to be followed up and I know they're going to be helped. So I can't say enough about that program. You still my lunch.
Questions for Jessica, and I'm sure if we have some for the sheriff,
Absolutely.
we'll bat them over the net to him. Ryan,
Thank you, first of all. And you stated that during one of the success stories that you found them a 1-week voucher for emergency housing. Where is the emergency housing and what happens after that 1 week?
So it's all due to our relationship with community partners. Salvation Army is a big one. Linda has been great to us. So really we try to put together vouchers and then we'll go find either a hotel room or some emergency housing. We do drive them to Rockford pretty frequently. We will drop people off at the Rockford Rescue Mission. So we don't have an emergency housing shelter here in our county. But we will work with our community partners to get them vouchers to be able to put them somewhere.
I'm going to do a follow-up for you because that was going to be one of my questions for you, Jess, is that you were talking about community partners and then Ryan kind of asked the same question. Can you give just a kind of a little overview? I just have to qualify. When I joined this group, I was still a Pollyanna and couldn't believe that our little utopia called Boone County had these kinds of issues. And so to follow up with what Davis said, you know, I was stunned, but I'm even more stunned by how much good these folks have done. So can you just give a quick little thumbnail sketch of who the partners are? Because I think that'll get to your point too, Ryan.
Absolutely. Empower Boone has been great. We have a relationship with Brenda to the point where whenever we run into someone that needs food or clothing, we can call her and stop right by. We don't have to wait for food distribution days. We can call her whatever we need, let her know whatever we need. We did recently have a winter clothing drive. Empower Boone donated us bins. And then the library put out bins for us. They also did distribute all of our flyers. Library is great. Emmanuel Lutheran put out bins for us. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but really it's all thank you to our partners. We have so many here locally that we can call on. So none of this happens within thin air. All the vouchers, all the food, all the clothing, it all comes from the partners that we have.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jessica or the sheriff? Freddie.
Hi, do you guys see a correlation between domestic violence and substance abuse for clients that you guys have?
So I don't have any specific data on that, but I can just tell you from my own work experience that there typically does seem to be a pretty high correlation between substance use and domestic violence. We do have many referrals where one of us works with the victim to get them services. And then if we do see substance use with the perpetrator, we'll do our best to help them as well. So we do get those referrals where it's kind of twofold.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because I recently started working with a lot of victims of domestic violence and things of that nature. And one thing that I do see is the overwhelming majority of the people that come to see us have some kind of substance abuse issue. So maybe, you know, sometimes I try to think maybe it's a trauma that they have or something that happens and that kind of maybe sparks some of this stuff. But and looking at it, it's really nice to see that our police department is collaborating with you guys on this issue, because I do see other counties that have trouble bringing the issue to light. So I'm just very happy for that.
Us too. The Sheriff's Department and the City of Belvedere Police, they are our number one referral source. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do half the things.
No.
And we talk about it all the time. We live in such a unique county when we have two police departments that cover the entire county. Everybody knows each other, all these organizations, these are all partners that we deal with on a regular basis. Everybody, if there's an issue or concern or a question, we pick up the phone, we know exactly who we're talking to, and we know exactly we're going to get an answer. So it really is, we're very, very blessed in this setting that we have.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Dave.
I do want to just, before I forget, really kudos to Amy and really Amanda. I can't tell you literally the crazy amount of painful meetings I attended over years before we were going to get the grant. You know, it was all in this, you know, all these partners came together with the hopes that really, honestly, I wasn't convinced that Boone County, you know, as good as the county that we are, really get hundreds of thousands of dollars from the federal government for this. but it didn't deter us from constantly going to these meetings monthly for probably a couple of years before we even got a taste of the grant. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Amanda constantly on our cases pushing for this, honestly, that really paid off. And I really do want to give kudos to that because that really has changed. I would say it's really changed Boone County and the future of Boone County for the better.
I would ask one more question, and that can go to anybody. Grants are wonderful, but they also make me real nervous because you never quite know what the future is going to hold. And with a program that is this wildly successful, have you given any kind of thought of how we keep this going if we run out of grant funding? I know that's a loaded question and wasn't fair, but still.
For my answer, we are up for renewal for both grants.
right.
So we are thankfully far from having to worry about that. There's also multiple grants along the same lines that come out every day, that come across my email that we could really try to keep going. But any way that we can make this sustainable, that is the best for everybody. My goal, because it also pays for my job.
The job that you are.
I would echo the fact that someday those grants may dry up.
Yeah.
And someday, this group will come back to the county board and the city council and they may need funding. But I believe by that time, we will have records and all statistics to show what is being done with the county. That is really not going to be a very tough decision by the city and county to actually continue this program. I think we'll have the facts in front of us to show that in the big picture, we are not only doing the right thing, not only making Boone County a better place for the people who live here, but also saving money in corrections and all the other things that the police and emergency services provide these people. So I think it will be sustainable in the long run. It may cost us money, but it's going to be, we're going to break even.
Well, we're going to break even because we're going to be saving lives and families. And I just have to follow up and say, these folks are just amazing. And they're passionate about what they do. That's why they do it so well, I think. Any other questions for Jessica or the sheriff? I'm thrilled to be on a little tiny piece of your task force. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
And
And
Amanda.
thank you all so much for your approval and your support.
Oh, is this ours? I thought maybe you brought it with you. I'm going to
Wish I
pass
was
it
that
down to Kevin.
Full clicker. She
I'm not that.
And thank you, Amy, too. You were the silent partner back there. All right. Let's see. We are up to new business. Help me and remember, we have two resolutions here for sale of surplus property. Last time we lumped them together, didn't we? Or did we have to do them individually?
I think
I think we lumped them.
at the committee meeting, we lumped them all together.
Right. And then, but at the county board meeting, I got to read all 82 of them.
Yep.
Yes. All right, I'm going to take and do item 7.1, which is a resolution, it was resolution 22-2, sale of surplus property, PIN number 0327106001, and item 7.2 is a resolution 22-03, sale of surplus property, PIN number 0322176003 and 004. So I'm looking for a motion to move these two to the county board this week.
I'll make the motion.
Jonathan Van Laar made the motion, second by Bill Robertson. Let's see, this doesn't do with money, so we can do a,
Well, and at the committee
It's
level,
committee, so we can do
the only thing that we have to remember is on
this on the
admin
claims.
meeting, the
on
claims.
Yeah.
Everything else can just be voice vote.
I didn't hear that last part.
Everything else can just be a voice vote at the committee level.
Okay, good. I was thinking I had it the other way around. Everything has to be, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 7.3 is planning case RP 33-2021, Svahala replat Candlewick Lake. And the floor is yours, Miss Izzy.
This is a Candlewick Lake replat. Spencer's Villa is requesting the replats of lots 48 and 49 from Candlewick Lake Unit Number 8 into Lot U and the vacation of that easement in between both of those lots. Again, this is located in Candlewick Lake. As you can see, I included the maps and the zoning as well, which is R1, our single-family residential district. The applicant is aware of the formal review that would be necessary in order to do any alterations to those easements. The replat was sent out to various agencies for review. There were some signature spots missing, which is why you're seeing it today and not at the last meeting, but it was updated in time to move it forward today. Staff is recommending approval.
Any questions for Izzy? Jonathan?
How do the neighbors feel about this? Have they been contacted?
So not for replats.
Okay.
Replats do internal review and they are posted on our agenda. But typically, whenever an owner of a parcel in Candlewick Lake owns a parcel next to them that is vacant, they typically will combine because it helps them save not only in taxes, but also in their association fees.
Okay.
Any other questions for Izzy? All in favor of forwarding this to the county, or what? I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Jonathan made the motion, Bill Robertson seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7.4, Resolution 2204, Highway Maintenance. There you are.
So this is a standard annual resolution that we bring in front of the board every year. This dollar amount, 3.2 million, was budgeted, so it did go through the budgetary process. And then the next step is to get it appropriated through IDOT. Once it's appropriated through IDOT, then we have to, as we spend it, we have to go through and get it allocated per job that we use it for or per project. So you'll see this same money. You saw this at the budget time, you see this now, and then you'll see it again as we're spending the money. So this is motor fuel tax money. The 3.2 million is already sitting in our bank account. In excess of that, we've got about 5 million in our motor fuel tax. We get a little over $1.5 million annually, actually right now, because of the Rebuild Illinois funds, we're getting more than that, almost 2 million. But so we get this money annually into our account. The money sits there until we go through and approve to use it. And then once we approve to use it, then we still have to get it brought in front of the board for approval. And then again, in claims process. So it's actually in front of you guys 4 times as we spend it. But this is the secondary step to allow us to spend the motor fuel tax money that has been allocated to Boone County.
Any questions for Justin? We do this every year. Someday I'll remember that. All right, I need a motion to approve this.
I'll make that motion.
Jonathan Van Laar approved or made the motion.
Second.
Ray Larson seconded it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're up to 7.5, a resolution 22-05, a circuit clerk pro tempore salary. I'm not sure who takes it, Kevin or Dan?
I'll probably let Dan take this one.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a vacancy in the circuit clerk position. The chief judge appointed a circuit clerk pro tempore effective December 1st. The county board sets the salary for that position, and it's set at least 180 days before the term. So this salary for this position was set on May 20th of 2020. And it was set for FY 2022 at $78,598. And so this resolution 2205 would essentially set the pro tempore's salary to that amount effective December 1st until then the expiration of that pro tempore.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan? Dave?
Well, it's actually more a couple of observations. When I first saw this yesterday, I was puzzled. And then this morning, when I was looking up the statute is the wrong section. Section 10 only for counties more than 3 million people.
I can address that if you want. It's a Scribner's error. It should be section 11. In the resolution or the, it's an administrative order from Judge Doherty. So it came from his office. It's not anything that the board adopted. It's an appointment through the circuit clerk, or I'm sorry, the circuit court. So it really should read section 11. And that was from advice from the AOIC. So
If I may,
Go ahead, Dave, follow up.
problem is that section 11 doesn't allow for the appointment of a pro tem. 10 does, but 11 doesn't. And I don't see anything in the statute that says that pro tem has to earn what the person who was the clerk earned. So
well, in the AOIC's opinion is that section 11 does allow the circuit court through their powers in the Illinois Constitution to appoint somebody on a temporary basis to run the office while the vacancy is in place.
it's not my opinion, but that's their opinion, and I understand what you're saying. I just find this odd. If it's a Scrivener's error, then you ought to be able to find the authority to appoint a pro tem in section 11, and it's not there. And you could argue that it's an inherent thing, but when the General Assembly, reading the two sections in parametry, which means people, so that they make sense together, why would the General Assembly specify something in 10 and not 11? But even that set aside for a moment, this has nothing to do with the person at all, that I don't see any indication anywhere that the salary has to be what the salary of the clerk was.
I guess it's our opinion that she is appointed in the shoes of the clerk by the circuit judge through the powers that he believes is inherent through the Constitution. And therefore, if she is in the shoes of the clerk, state statute requires that the clerk be paid a certain salary that's set by this board 180 days prior to that position being filled. So therefore, if she's in the shoes of the clerk, that she should be paid what that salary was. That as.
Go ahead, Dave.
I have one last thing. 10, by its language, talks about the judges, and 11, by its language, talks about the judges. Did they have a vote to do this? That the chief judge is reporting to us?
I'm sorry, that you're saying that.
Both of those sections talk about the judges shall make a selection.
I'm not sure what internally happened with the circuit judges. Judge Doherty is the chief judge and he signed the order. As to the process as how he got to that, that would be a question for Judge Doherty.
Thank you.
Just for reference in regards to the income or the salary adjustment, this board has in the past made adjustments to temporary positions. We did that when Mr. Street filled in for temporary administrator a couple of years ago. I don't remember what the exact dollars were, but I mean, we did make adjustments to the salary because the duties had increased. So I think it's only fair to pay the person what that position should be making if they're filling in and doing that position.
And we also did the same when we had the deputy county assessor fill it in for
Correct.
assessors
Correct.
position also. So it's kind of a standard practice that we followed when somebody has to be assigned temporarily. Other questions, comments? Okay, I need a motion to move this on to the county board.
So moved.
Motion made by Rodney,
Second.
seconded by Ray Larson. Any further conversation or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries 10 to 1. No, 11 to 1. Yeah, we're all here.
No, 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
We're missing one.
Missing.
Missing.
Oh, I forgot.
Jeff's been awful quiet over there lately.
I should have noticed, right? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 7.6 is a motion to approve GovQA's contract cancellation payment in the amount of $3,310. I'm not sure who's going to take this one.
It should be Drew Bliss. He should be on the phone.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, Drew.
Okay, good evening. If you see the background that Kevin put together,
Yep.
there is a recent update to that. I believe we've negotiated down to 3 months of service for approximately $1,700.
Excellent.
This is kind of a long winding story, and I'll condense it the best I can. As you know, we went to a new permitting system, but when we did that, we were already financially or contractually and financially obligated to the old permitting system, GovQA. That being said, leading up to getting to Cloud Permit, I was trying to work with GovQA to get potentially the same type of services. They're a business that we had for 10 plus years, and I would have liked to have continued with them. I tried repeatedly to talk to someone about getting to online permitting. It went nowhere. Phone calls went unanswered, emails went unanswered. GovQA did not, they finally approached me basically when it was too late. We'd already went down the path with Cloud Permit. It was about the time that we got county board approval for it. And I finally heard from the COO of the company. He called me personally and we discussed this. I discussed it in detail of how this was all going to roll out, that we're going to use GovQA from December 1st of 2020 to whenever we got Cloud Permit up and going, which as it turned out was April 17th of 2021. And I told him, we have to continue to use WebQA because building permits are good for a year. We have a backlog of building permits that are under the WebQA system. We already paid them. We're going to use their services when our contract is up November 30th of 2021. We will no longer be utilizing their services. We will be full on with Cloud Permit. He again apologized and we moved on. He never mentioned that there was a clause in the contract that required a 60-day written cancellation. Leading up to now, basically, Diane in my office had repeatedly tried to contact them about how this was going to work, this transition, once we're done with the contract. Again, everything went unanswered. The only thing we got out of GovQA was a bill. That's when we contacted them and said, no, this is incorrect. And that's when they brought up the contract that, by the way, was signed 11 years ago, I believe. And no one had ever seen it since. So we were not aware of that clause. That being said, they wanted to be paid a full year's worth. I think Kevin was successful in negotiating it down to half. And then this afternoon, I think I got it down to half of a quarter. So that's where we're at. Now, that being said, that money will actually help my department out tremendously. The balance to GovQA will help me out tremendously because I still have a gap of permits, again, from December 1 to April that are on the old system that I still have to deal with. And if we have to pay them for the service, they have to provide the service. $1,700 in the grand scheme of things for what it will do for us to administer closing out all those permits is money well spent.
Okay, are you ready for questions? Drew?
Absolutely, yes.
Carl, you're up.
Well, Drew stole my thunder a little bit, or rained on my parade.
Well, just get it all and move on.
I actually was looking at a way that we wouldn't have to pay anything, but if it sounds like we can actually utilize the services, then never mind.
Well, that was easy. Dave?
Yeah, one of the notes I wrote to myself was to get some additional services. Is there attorney's fee provision? But I have to say, I'm very pleased to see that staff has worked to knock this figure down twice in a row. And, if it's 11 years ago, I get it. It's hard to know when that's one of the reasons I always don't like automatic renewals, but it's in a lot of contracts. So I'm very pleased that staff has been able to reduce this amount.
Other questions or comments? Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I just qualify that by, this contract, we were going through the process of acquiring cloud permit. I can attest to the fact it took us, I think, nearly 2 months to even get a copy of the contract. So even it took them a long time to find this contract. And we actually did have the state's attorney review it because at the time we had already paid for GovQA services for the entire year for 2021. And we were actually trying to sort of prorate some of that time to get some of the money back. And that's why then we ended up brokering a deal with Cloud Permit to having the first year just being free, if you all recall. So after that, with all the discussions we had with GovQA, we had thought that we had made it pretty clear that we were moving on from GovQA, and I'm not sure why they would send us a bill. So nonetheless, like Drew said, we'll end up utilizing some services up until end of February anyway to close out GovQA's information and get that into Cloud Permit. So
Rodney.
I don't want to make this anything as far as Drew specifically, but maybe administration, this might be a good opportunity for all department heads to take a look at all outside contracts, vendors, and make sure you look at your contracts. And if anything's coming up for renewal or anything like that, or we're looking at maybe changing something, that we look at those contracts. And this was a good eye opener for us, I think.
Good point. Anybody else? Dave?
And along that line, one of the things that I always look at in contracts when I was a city attorney for Des Plaines for 19 years was attorney fees for provisions and default venue, jurisdiction. You'd be surprised at the Fortune 100 companies that got to back off of those provisions by asking. Sometimes they won't do it, but I have had better than 50-50 luck at getting Fortune 100 companies and other companies to back off of it.
We typically, when we review contracts, want to have Illinois and even Boone County.
Oh, yes.
And you're right. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they won't. In fact, I think Cloud Permit agreed from Texas to here. So it's just an issue of, like the contract had been outstanding for 11 years.
Yeah, I understand.
So we're trying to catch those as we go through them.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Let's see. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That will be moved on to the board, and by that time, we should have a final number. You think?
Yeah, we will definitely. Yep.
Okay, 7.7 is a motion to approve resolution 2201, authorizing use of the office of the state's attorney appellate prosecutor at a cost of $21,000. This is not my story, but we do this every year, correct, Tricia?
That is correct.
So moved.
Motion made by Ray, seconded by Bill Robertson. Any questions or comments or concerns? I'm sure Tricia will be happy to answer them.
Just briefly, they provide a lot of services to our office. They take all the appeals from our county. We probably have about 50 pending. And as well as they do conflict cases for us. And they also give trainings and general legal advice. So it's well worth the contract price. What they do is they set it by population. So each county that's part of, the only county in Illinois that I'm aware of that's not part of the appellate prosecutor's office is Cook County. And the rest of the counties pay a portion into pay for their services. The other portion where they get their money from is from forfeitures, and the forfeiture laws have changed over the last couple of years. So that portion is down. A couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, they upped our price by about $5,000. This year, it's actually down 1,000. If you read the narrative, they're giving us a 1-year, $1,000 break, but I guess we'll take it. But expect it to be back at the full price next year, so.
For 21,000, it seems like a pretty good deal. Dave?
Yeah, I've handled about 30 appeals in my career. This is a very good deal. It's a very good use of our money. And then we have those experts that do that all the time. Very good deal.
Okay, did I get a motion?
Yes, you did, I think.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.8 is a motion to approve additional environmental site investigation at 1455 McKinley Avenue at a cost of $4,275.
So moved.
Motion made by Ray, seconded by Bill Robertson. Any questions? Kevin, you'll take these, right? Questions? We talked about this last time.
Yep.
This isn't another increase that is.
Nope, this is just kind of making it a formality, basically. Yep.
Okay, we don't have any results yet, right?
No, we should have in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't. Any other questions? Carl?
Just want to make a comment that I'm surprised we are releasing some of this information the way we are. That I don't think the address should be in here.
I'm not sure how we would approve it without.
We all know that we're considering some action potentially on acquisitions. If we're going to do this, why do we ever have executive session? I mean, that's.
I was instructed to place this on the agenda just like this. That's why it's done that way. I didn't just do it arbitrarily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I just think that's frustrating to me a little bit, so, but anyway.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor of moving this onto the board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. Item 7.9 is a motion to approve the VAC office space lease in the amount of $1,104 per month, or $13,248 annually.
So moved.
Made by Ray, seconded by Ryan.
Dave?
Oh, Dave, I'm sorry. Kevin, anything else to add on this one?
No, it's the exact same contract amount or lease amount as the public defender's office. Everything else remains the same in the lease.
I have a quick question. If something happens and we consolidate our offices to a different location, is there a termination clause in here? I thought I saw a 60-day advance, but I might be wrong.
There should be this.
I want to say their argument to not move, well, they need to be able to walk in, but it's not like that's easily accessible.
Yeah, I remember.
Floor tucked above a bank, so.
Yeah, I remember that comment too, Ryan, and I wasn't sure. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, but the point is that it's in the downtown rather than out here.
That's what, yeah.
It's not really going up the staircase that's the issue. It's being away from the downtown. And I appreciate the fact that staff has listened to some of the comments. And, I had talked about the number of people that each month, through the numbers that they give us, the number of people that each month visit that facility, but they're also a confidentiality issue too. And so I think this is a good way to do this.
I don't dispute that, but we just talked about cancellation clauses, and so I was kind of fussing. All right, any other comments? All in favor of moving this onto the board for approval? Say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. Let's see, item 7.10 is a motion to approve additional ARPA spending requests. Let's see, let me get to that one. All right, motion made by Ray. Any second?
I'll second.
Second by Jonathan Van Laar. I think this would be, turn it over to Dan or Kevin.
Yeah, I can take it. So just kind of reviewing, I placed some slides up there, more abbreviated than the last. Just as a reminder, the county was allocated $10.4 million from American Rescue Plan Act, from the American Rescue Plan Act. And so we received the first tranche of that funding, and we expect to receive the second tranche sometime around summer 2022, May 2022-ish. The Treasury Guidance has 5 categories that make expenses eligible, which are negative economic impact, mitigating COVID-19, premium pay for eligible workers, lost revenue in government, and then water and sewer and broadband capital projects. In October, the board approved some initial expenses, some capital, and then the lost revenue and payroll. So right now, we haven't spent anything for the broadband upgrade. We're right in the winter months here and frozen, but that'll be scheduled in 2022. We've already been working with iFiber, and they're bidding that project out. And that would be actually, that $250,000 would cover a 10-year agreement, so we wouldn't see any bills on that for 10 years. The public safety payroll, we just need to submit direction to the treasurer's office, as county board has already approved this, to roll that into the general fund balance. Lost revenue needs to roll into general fund balance, but that specific item will actually come back to the county board as the there are certain funds that that $595,000 was actually calculated on a entity-wide basis. So that includes like highway funds, other special funds that we have. So that number will go into the general fund, but we'll bring that back to the county board to decide, for the county board to decide how we want to kind of divvy up that money between the other funds. So we'll look at that. As you know, the highway department likely experienced some lost revenue and motor fuel tax. So nonetheless, that'll come back to the county board. The premium pay, I had estimated around $550,000. We ended up calculating the eligible workers. That actually came out to $432,000. And then the last request that was approved in October was a health department first year salary request for their COVID staff. However, they ended up receiving a mass vaccination grant for 3 of those staff for a total of $158,000, a little over that. So that sort of decreases their ask, and they're still working on, obviously, competing for grants to fund much of that request that they made in the first place for salaries. So that's where we're at now. Just an update on that. There are additional projects that were shared on the last meeting in an Excel spreadsheet, and so some of those requests are coming back to the board for consideration and approval, and I broke those up into categories. So the first one being mitigating COVID-19. There are health departments in our region or very close to us that have invested in resiliency strategies to be able to ensure that that the population is kept healthy. So one thing that the health department would like to invest in is essentially like a health department on wheels vehicle, mobile wellness clinic, to ensure that they can be responsive, remain responsive to the public, be proactive out in the public, and really be able to be responsive. They're looking also at funding for a new SUV, and that would be for COVID-19 compliance, other COVID-19 hopefully won't be a thing forever, but obviously compliance related to other viruses and just outreach and things like that. For COVID staff, that was shared as well. They're looking at purchasing laptops for them so that, to assist in working from home or working remotely and out in the field when they are tasked with COVID compliance and those sorts of projects. There's a monument sign that was discussed. That would actually service the entire Logan Avenue campus. What that would be, you could advertise election data, clinics from the health department, any other special information that, for instance, like the treasurer's office would have, our office, building department, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, or the last item in mitigating COVID-19 is a touchless X-ray and temperature check machine for the courthouse. They would like to sort of automate that a little bit more so that they're not exposing staff to potential sickly people. So mitigated COVID-19 total dollar amount asked for this month is $219,700. And then the last category that we're putting up today is an item that would address negative economic impacts, and that's a request from the Northern Illinois Food Bank, and that's to address food insecurity in Boone County. And that's what we have there, and that's for $50,000 for negative economic impacts. And in the slide presentation, I included the list that we came up with and kind of the status of things. And I can stand by for any questions. I know the health department is here, and we also have the Northern Illinois Food Bank here, if you have any questions for them specifically.
Questions for Kevin, for starters? Carl?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. We spent quite a bit of money of these funds a month or so ago. And I personally would like us to just sit back and wait and see how things progress here in society. I'm not a big fan of, I understand that this is different money than budget money, but I'm really not a big fan of doling out large sums of money a month after we've just passed a budget and discussed other monetary items. I think we need to sit back. I have deep concerns. I've said this before. I'm worried that we've got this money in our pocket and it's burning a hole in it. And I think we need to step back, be careful how we spend this, and see what happens here in the next few months. I'm not anxious to spend any of it, so I certainly am not interested in any of these new projects at this time personally.
Jonathan?
Yeah, it seems to me like this is like a wish list that we have some money, we're really excited to spend it. I would be with Carl on this.
Ryan?
I'm going to disagree, and not just because I'm on the board or I represent them, but it's not going away. We see things come up, come down, whether I agree on the way things are kind of attacked, the fact of the virus in itself. And maybe we don't jump on every single one, but maybe we prioritize and find out what's more important. Boone County's just getting bigger if we grow. These are things that we can utilize from time to time. I'm not saying that we have to jump on all of it right now, but I think some of these things would be beneficial to the county, and I don't think we should. And I understand what you're saying. We got this money. It makes me nervous too, because we shouldn't just throw everything right off the bat. Dump a large amount. We should be methodical. But what's going on right now, a little different and takes precedence of what's going. This isn't a normal situation that we're in. This is. I understand they're worn out. We need to do what we can to support them to make life a little bit simpler or less stressful. I think this helps out in a lot of ways. I'm not saying we have to do it all right now, like I said, but maybe we can, if we can work and figure out a good happy medium. And then as things come up on the road, further down the road, we can again, laptops, an SUV, maybe we can wait on the SUV, stuff like that. But I don't want to throw all of it out. I'd like to at least discuss and maybe bring Amanda up here so that she can maybe prioritize, and then maybe vote on that. But
Dave?
Yeah, is there any chance that we lose any of this money, or is this money that we have and it's just a matter of how we allocate it?
So the funds need to be sort of obligated or allocated by the end of 2024, and then I believe we have until the end of 2026 to expend.
Okay. All right, then in that case, then I understand what you're saying. And I agree, maybe bring back some things, but I agree with Carl and Jonathan that there are strange times coming out there, and maybe we ought to hold off on this.
Carl?
Yeah, I guess just touching base a little bit on what Ryan said, prioritizing, I'd be interested in seeing a prioritized list, but I certainly wouldn't, I'm certainly not interested in voting on this thing as a whole. I'd consider maybe one or two items if they were a high priority, but not the way it sits.
Ready?
Are these things that the health department is recommending?
So I guess, I'll kind of back up a little bit. Maybe I should have explained this, but we are being very methodical as staff as far as how this list is being presented. The items that are presented or that are being brought forth today were discussed with Amanda, the public health administrator, and actually I narrowed their list down quite drastically. I think, Amanda, there's like 15 to 20 items on there, and I presented today, I think it's 5. So those are on there. And then I also want to point out the fact too that, again, if we go back to this slide, so the board had already approved $846,212 in salary for the public health department. They have received a grant for $158,000. So the amount that the board approved has already been directly impacted from that grant. So really their new ask isn't much above what they were previously approved for. But if you take a look at the list, the health department has quite a bit of requests in here, and I did already work through the health department to kind of prioritize what was presented tonight, and they feel like that what's presented tonight is a priority for their department to be successful in mitigating COVID-19.
I guess I just get a little frustrated that if we get a grant, that's fantastic. And we've got departments and individuals and departments, whether it's the health department, the highway department, the sheriff's department, whatever department that does a fantastic job in getting grants to help pay for things. I think we have to understand and remember, I don't care how we got this money. If it came from the federal government, it came from the state government, or it came from our property tax revenues. This is taxpayer money. It's not our fund money that we won at Monopoly or at the bingo machine or whatever. This is taxpayer money, and we have to spend this money very, very prudently. That's our task as county board members. I'm going to take you back in history a little bit. My time on the board. I was off the board for 2 years. I came back on the board just as the recession was ending. And I sat in a chair on this board and watched this board, and now not this particular board, but the board at the time, start spending money and adding things to a budget in the middle of a budget cycle, like they were doling out candy at the candy store. And immediately it put us back into problems of, oh my gosh, we're short on money again. And I understand the desire to fill every request or as many requests as we can, even narrowing those down and filling some of them. But just because we get a list of this will help us, this will help us, this will help us, we can go to every department in this county and they can give us a list of things that they really need or really could use that would help them a ton. And we could spend all this money that quick. We cannot do that. Our job is to guard this money like it's our last dollar in our pocket because it's taxpayer money. I don't care if it came from the federal government. I don't care if it came because it's, COVID relief money. We still must be responsible for this money, plain and simple.
Any other comments? Carrie?
Yes, after going to the class last July that only Freddie and I attended, One thing that we're maybe not even thinking about is the fact that this money has to be spent within a certain amount of time. And there's only certain things that it can be spent on. And I agree with him. Yes, we really have to look at certain things, such as the Northern Ally Food Bank. I think some of the people that are in our Northern Ally Food Bank need to be looked at a little bit better because some of them do not have the proper papers. That being said, the money must be spent in a certain way. Yeah, we don't have to hurry up and do it, but it has to be done within a timeline. If it is not done within this timeline, what money that is not spent goes back to the government.
Just a clarification, and then I'll let you do it.
No, you're good.
I think I read and I heard Kevin say, we have to decide where it goes by 2024. So that gives us 2 years. 2024, and we have to spend it all by 2026.
Right.
So we do have time.
It just has to be said, it has to say that we had spent it by 2024.
No.
It has to be paid out by 2026.
No, so we just need to obligate, so we need to submit a plan by, essentially, if we haven't already expended all the money, which I know we won't, we have to at least submit in a report to the U.S. Department of Treasury, this is how we intend to spend it, and then we have to actually spend it by 2026.
By 2026.
Yeah.
End of 2026 or
It'd be December 30th. Yeah, it would be.
for the 2024?
It isn't spent, it goes back.
Go on it. Okay.
Dave, did you have your hand up?
No, that's it.
Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, I just wanted to address a comment made by the chairman. Every single department was actually engaged on submitting projects for the ARPA spending plan. Most of the request, as well, obviously the American Rescue Plan was tailored to COVID-19, would likely originate from the Public Health Department. But yes, to address another point, this money, in terms of it being taxpayer money, yes, needs to be safeguarded. However, it can only be spent on particular things that I have outlined in the PowerPoint. It is highly regulated, and every project that is on this list that is presented so far is eligible because we checked it. But every department was engaged and did submit projects. Some departments just didn't because they don't have any eligible projects to submit. However, we didn't leave any department out. I sent out an email to every single department head and they were engaged.
Ryan.
I would just argue the fact that these aren't items that you wait till 2024, which I understand that's our time limit. But these are items that are needed now. Just like the sheriff's department has items that are needed now. And I understand we have to vet these and we have to put the taxpayer first and forefront. But this benefits the taxpayers. So I would be in favor.
Jonathan?
I'm not sure these items are needed now. I look at this mobile clinic. We've done great so far, phenomenal so far without it. We don't know where COVID is going with the variants, and a year or two down the road, we may need this money for something else.
Can't use it.
Other comments?
I believe that mobile unit is to go to some of these factories where there's outbreaks that have happened throughout our community. They're able to kind of come in there and treat an area where they can't do that right now. The units that are set up, people come to them. This is a way to get out into our community and treat those that willfully want to be treated. So it's a big one, don't get me wrong. So if that one didn't happen right now, it would disappoint, but at the same time, there are other things that do need, laptops, basic laptops. Speaking with them, how many of their laptops crash all the time? This is stuff they shouldn't have to be asking for. It makes me, the monument sign out front. Of course, we've survived a long time without a monument sign, but would it be handy to put something in our community that doesn't just benefit the health department, but it benefits everything that's going on. It's a message sign for our community, anybody to drive by to see. So I get prioritizing some of these, but there are, and I'm guessing Amanda can answer a lot of the questions as to the why or why it's important instead of us just making up or assuming why it's important. But they're on here for a reason, so.
Ray?
Yeah, I'm all for putting this off. It could be relooked at next month or the month after just to see what is really needed for this. And I have a question for the representative from the Northern Illinois Food Bank.
Go ahead.
So I was just wondering if you serve a larger area than just Boone County, how would we know that if there was a donation made, that it would stay in the county?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Your name and address, please.
My name is Hester Burry. I'm a development officer with Northern Illinois Food Bank. We would restrict this.
Need your address also, please.
273 Dearborn Court, Geneva, Illinois, 60134.
Thank you.
If we were awarded funding, we would restrict this to a food fund, which would be used to purchase food that would be eligible just for our Boone County member agencies. We have used this model of funding for the past several years, and especially in the last year, we received specific county funding from several counties that we serve, and that's how it was used. The money is used to purchase food. The member agencies, member food pantries in Boone County, there are 4, would have access to that food with no fees to them.
Thank you.
Other questions for? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think what we're going to do is, my recollection is that we've had lists because Kevin was reading from one we had before. And I'm going to follow up and say, the Public Health Department did a really intensive job of looking at what they wanted. Because I sat in on at least one phone call. I'm not sure, it might have been more. All that being said, I guess my question is, the last time I thought we talked about this, we said the only thing we were going to spend at this point in time was the $2,000 for essential employees. Does anybody else remember that, or am I the only one? We looked at the list and said, okay, we're going to pay the essential, what is it, premium pay? Is that what it was called, Kevin?
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, it is. It's premium pay for eligible workers. You all actually voted on the initial plan, which included everything on the approved request, October 21 spreadsheet. Yeah, that's why I highlighted that. You guys approved all those items.
Okay, so, all right, all that being said, then I'm going to take the new one and I'm going to suggest that we not give $50,000 to the Northern Illinois Food Bank, simply because we just had someone up here talking earlier this evening about the desperate need for assistance with mental health and with behavioral disorders and with drug addiction and that sort of stuff. The Northern Illinois Land Bank, if I'm correct, they get food, the land bank gets, the USDA buys food and gives to them, and then they have all sorts of corporations that donate food. Jewel Osco, Hormel, Tyson, and so on and so forth. So their funding is elsewhere. And I'm going to go back to a point made earlier. This money is not our money. This is money that was returned, well, I'll call it funny money, but this is money that was returned to the citizens of Boone County. So the taxpayers. So I hope we just kind of think about some of those things. Anyhow, I think the easiest way to do is just, I'm going to just, right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. I have a different chart here. It was in the memo that was attached. Kevin? It's, yeah, that one. That's the one I was looking at.
Yeah, that's the
one that's up for debate right now.
Yeah, that's the exact, yeah, it's on.
Okay. I guess I'm just going to take it as a whole. I think there's two issues. I don't know that we're saying we're going to eliminate any of these things. I think the discussion is either buy them all now, spend it all right now, or let's hold off and see what what comes down the pike. Do you think I think those are the two choices.
Okay.
Two choices. Sherry?
I do know for a fact that the health department really does need the laptops desperately.
Carl?
I guess I would, I would be in favor of asking the health department to bring back a prioritized list on these items. Tell us what and why, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, however many there are, that we could perhaps take a peek at, even for the board meeting. I'd be willing to evaluate that. I understand the need for laptops, especially in today's society, whether I personally like laptops and computers or not is irrelevant. But it's a necessary evil to society these days. So I understand the potential need for that. And if that truly is a need, and if their current laptops aren't working, although I guess perhaps staff can answer this question. Did we approve funding for laptops in the prior funding?
Just
computers or something?
Can I clarify something? These are laptops for contact tracers. So it's laptops for people that are going to be tracing COVID issues.
Which we approved that.
Okay, so just a clarification.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I would be in favor of seeing a prioritized list.
Okay, so there's a third option. We defer this until next week and ask Amanda, not that she doesn't have plenty of other things to do, to prioritize. You want these four things, prioritize them, Carl, or all of the ones that are on the health department's list?
I would say all of them on their list.
Okay.
For the mitigating COVID-19 list.
So we are not moving this on to the board for motion. We will discuss it again next week at the county board meeting.
We could even have it listed as a potential motion.
All right, we do that?
Discussion.
All right.
So then we'll have it under new business or under committee of the whole finance. I need to know where to stick it on the agenda.
Give it to Ryan. No, I'm kidding.
I think you could put it on the new business.
You're the best.
All right, I'm sorry, what was the decision?
Under new business.
New business, okay. Hey, you gotta learn how to roll with the punches. You got a little guy there now. All right, thank you all for those comments. Let's move on to,
Do we need to
Ray?
remove our motions for that?
Oh, yeah, we do. That's right.
We did have a motion and a second on the original, so you could have, I would amend the motion to push it to, I guess, how would we do that?
I think you need to vote on the motion that's on the floor unless it's withdrawn.
So you could either withdraw it or vote.
Ray made the motion and I think Jonathan seconded it. So we either rescind the motion or we can vote on it and.
Point of order, I think we could amend it,
That is true. I mean, you can
Okay.
always make a motion to amend.
So then I would amend that, I would amend the motion to ask the health department and staff to clarify and prioritize the list as presented, and have it available for the board meeting next week.
Second.
Now vote on the amendment.
I'm sorry.
To vote on the amendment and then go back to vote on the original.
We need to vote on the amendment that has been made that is asking Amanda to come back with a prioritized list. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion to amend it has passed, and now we need to.
Vote on the motion as amended.
As amended.
Now, I have a mental block against this kind of craziness. It's like double negative.
Do we want to hear from Amanda before we do this? Just insight and, or next week.
I think it was just a list.
Yeah, next week.
and then we'll discuss it then. So we'd want to vote on the motion as amended, Sherry.
Vote on, all in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. This will go forth to the board meeting. And if I know Amanda, she's got it prioritized already. All right, let's see. Item 7.11, retroactive cost of living discussion. Go ahead, Kevin.
I don't have anything to add. I submitted the report. You wanted it on the agenda. I can stand by for questions.
Okay, any questions or comments on this memo?
Are we asking if there's any questions about it?
Yeah, about the memo. There's, oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Okay, if you're looking at 7.11, retroactive COLA discussion, there is a memo that Kevin has put together. And so I was curious if anybody has any questions. Does that help? Dave?
I just have actually a comment. The memo seems to me to stand for itself. If in fact it's a part of the performance evaluation on the contract, then it should be retroactive to that. And historically, we're talking about December 1st on some of these other things. It just seems to me that this presented that I agree to it.
Any other comments? I think as presented, but I did some checking and I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that the cost of living raises have always been effective December 1st of every single year. And my second point here is that I'm not certain what the state's attorney and the public defender's salaries have to do with any of this. We don't ride herd on those. That's the state. The state takes care of that. And so it's here that says the county has established a past practice for retroactive cost of living increase compensation. In 7 years, I don't know that we've ever done that. Sherry.
I have a question then for you. If your contract was started on September 14th, 2020, and it passed this year, September 14th, 2021, and you were supposed to get your COLA as of that date, would you be unhappy if you lost that amount of money?
But I don't know where we've never done this.
Contract is September 14th, 2020. Shouldn't that also be his anniversary date when the COLA should be started? It can start December 1st.
Well, if we're going to the answer to your question is, if in fact that was the pattern and practice that we've used for years, yes, but we never have. All COLAs have been put into effect the first day of the new fiscal year, which is December 1st. That's how it's always been.
How it's always been isn't going to be how it is now, according to his contract. I wouldn't want to lose money. If I'm a union, I work for the union, okay? And if we had a contract and we were fighting our contract, and that we finally decided, okay, we have a good contract 6 months later, we get paid for that difference. Just as this should be paid for the difference in time.
So I guess I'm going to ask a question. We have hired quite a few really, really good employees in the last few years. And I guess my question, did they all get their cost of living increase retroactively to the date that they started?
Well, I can come back and I can say this. Before I was on this county board, I sat out there in that audience. And Bob Wahlberg was chairman. And the county board at that time voted an increase of $200 from $1,000 to $1,200, along with a couple other people. And the county board at that time, retroactive, all the way back to the beginning of that year for that man. So you tell me, what is the difference?
Carl?
I guess, can you say that again, that the county board voted to retroactively pay Bob Wahlberg?
Yes. I was sitting out in the audience. And you went from $1,000 to $1,200 a month. And at that time, it was discussed. When should this have been done?
You cannot change compensation for an elected official in the middle of a term. So what you're saying is we
guys have been having discussions about it for the whole year.
It doesn't matter. So what happened with increasing the chairman's salary was it was voted on to increase the chairman's salary at the next election. So you cannot change any elected official's salary in the middle of a cycle. It has to be 180 days prior to an election. So if we wanted to say, Steve, I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on you. We really like Steve and we're going to pay him $200 per meeting and we're going to make it effective to, 6 months ago. We can't do that. All we can do is we can say District 2 representative is going to get $200 per meeting at the next election. We can't change any salary for any elected official in the middle of a cycle. It cannot be, it's not legal. No state's attorney we've ever had here would do it. So we did not change and make Mr. Wahlberg's salary retroactive. Can't be done. Not legally, not in any way.
Dave, do you have your hand up or you're thinking?
No, actually, yes and both.
Okay, go ahead.
Chairman's absolutely right about changing an an individual salary. You can't do it. It has to be 180 days before the end of the term. But in this particular case, of course, we're talking about the county administrator's contract, and the contract was September, and the contract controls, I think, in this situation, that it ought to be retroactive to the contract date.
What I'm going to suggest is kind of something we just did previous to this. There's a comment in here that says the county has established a past practice for retroactive COLA compensation. I would like to see data to support that.
So the data, Vice Chairman, is in that memo. You will see no further data than that. That data is in there. It has been presented. Also, the board voted on that retroactive COLA and was explicitly stated in executive session. The board voted in favor of that when they approved that entire budget, for one. For two, the county administrator, both temporary and former county administrators, were not under contractual terms and agreement. I am under a contract. That contract began September 14th, hence why I said that the payment and the salary adjustment would be retroactive to September 14th. We do not at any point in time with any employees have them work over a year, anything over a 12-month period, 365 days, without an annual 12-month period cost of living adjustment. I would have worked 78 days over that term, September 14th, 2020 to September 14th, 2021, meaning that the salary should be retroactive to September 14th, period. But the board voted on that, and it was explicitly stated, and Carla Mayville can attest to that because I already spoke to her on the phone.
Well, I'm going to correct you on something. You made the statement that no county employee has ever had to work without a raise each year. Ken Tiernoni took many years that he didn't have a salary increase. We've got a sheriff here that hasn't taken an increase since I have been on this board. So that is not factually correct.
It is actually factually correct. Actually, the sheriff's office or whoever is elected in that position, they advocate for their salary. That's on them if they didn't take the salary increase. So it doesn't matter that they did not get a salary increase or COLA. They advocated on their behalf and the board voted on that to not give them a salary increase. They can advocate for whatever they want. My salary was increased 3%, non-union, like all other non-union staff, and the board was advised that it would be retroactive to September 14th. We can go back to the audio and listen to it if you'd like.
Dave?
The distinction here is there's a contract, and a contract can supersede if the parties agree to the usual terms. And that's what we have here. That's exactly what we have here is a contract, and the contract controls.
Jonathan?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Any other comments?
I think it should be paid back to September 14th, 2021. That's when his contract is. That's when it should be done.
I agree.
I guess I would just say, I don't know if saying that the contract controls is accurate because we don't know what the contracts, I don't have in front of me if it says that it's to that date or if there's COLA. But that's not the point. I believe in talking with Attorney Mayville as well. I was not present at the time, but she said in the executive session that was stated and voted upon. So I think going forward, if we want to make a change to that and make it so that going forward, every person is on December 1st, which makes it a heck of a lot easier for payroll, things of that nature. Otherwise, if everyone got paid COLA back to their anniversary date, it would be kind of a logistical nightmare for payroll. So maybe going forward, that would be something to negotiate on the contract.
Yeah. One other thing on
comments about that.
Yeah.
Any questions about that?
Only question I have is a person has a contract for that day, are they to lose all that time?
Well, I'm just saying that the contract, and I'm not going to say, just talking about generally, I don't know in particular, I don't have the county administrator's contract, memorized, but a lot of times contracts will address that issue. It's not automatic that you would get a pay increase every year upon your anniversary date, unless the contract says that, and maybe it does. I don't know that to be true. I just can say that in relation to this issue, I believe it was voted on by the board to be retroactive in this particular instance. And so that is what was done in this situation. Going forward, if that needs to be changed, then that's an issue to be discussed and negotiated.
Carl?
I think I'd like to see the board take a look at this whole scenario and how we're going to affect raises all through this. Perhaps the state's attorney can investigate, weigh in on this and give us some information. But I think if it was voted on, then let's just move forward for now. And we can, if there's changes we want to consider, then we can discuss those at a later date.
Okay, so the end result is this stands, but going forward, we're going to take a look at the anniversary date issue. I would also suggest that we roll the anniversary date issue or take a look at how we calculate vacation days and that sort of stuff, because I think that's a nightmare for payroll processing too. And if we went to beginning of the fiscal year for both salary increases and vacation allocation, I think it would make life easier for our folks. Let's see, item 7, I think that's it. Anything in, no intergovernmental informational items, correspondence, UCCI, board member comments?
Are we voting on this?
No, we already did.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, and let's see, do we have a need for, we
Yes.
do have a need for an executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss item 10.3 personnel.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Jonathan Van Laar, seconded by Steve Schabacher. We do need a roll call, correct? Carl Johnson.
Yes.
Sherry Geeske, yes. Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schabacher.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartelt.
Yeah.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Going into, we'll be going into executive session at 7:59 PM. Are you doing the door?